How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, not too
Is this
bad.
our first time interacting in real time?
100%. Yeah, it's quite surreal. Yeah. Is it? What time is it for you over there? You're over in the UK at the moment?
No, I'm in Nashville right now, and I
Oh,
live in Los
wicked.
Angeles.
Oh,
So,
that's all right then. So yeah, you're on the right time zone. Yeah,
yes.
cool. But yeah, here we are. I guess the Hans Zimmer of the gaming scene, right? As it
I
were.
try.
Let's give you that accolade. And yeah, mate, it's fascinating. Everybody in the chat will agree with me. And it's the minute you boot up ARK, you're treated to these wonderful scores, and just to see that development through to what it is now with the animated series has been a fantastic journey in seeing how you've took that leitmotif through to later compositions, right? But I'd like to take it right back to how did it all come about, right? How did you meet the team and those conversations came to happen, and you thought, wow, this is a project I really want to tuck myself into. In fact, let's go back even further. Why the gaming scene attracted you more than perhaps most? I mean, obviously you wasn't exclusively to the gaming scene, but you've certainly spent a lot of time working on compositions for the gaming scene.
I think for me, like getting into games was honestly kind of a natural fit for me from like my childhood, because
Yeah.
while I did watch films and watch TV shows when I was a kid, I definitely played way more games when I was a kid. And for me, it's actually was a big part of connecting with my parents. I played games with my dad,
Right.
especially, and even my grandparents. But like I remember, for example, playing StarCraft and Warcraft over a local area network with my father.
Yeah.
Like I play it in my bedroom, and he played in his office.
Right.
So,
That's wicked.
and that's like a very like core memory for me. And
Yeah.
this might sound kind of cheesy, but like when I make music for games, I want to be part of the process that. Enables other people to get those kinds of core memories, like having a great time. And I think music's a big part of that. So I get to like affect people and kind of bring people together through music inside a game in quite a unique way. And for, I know that's happened in ARK. I know that's happened in Ori and like several of the other things that I've worked on. It's obviously not just me, but like being able to contribute a part of that, it takes me back to my own childhood, and also I know that I'm giving something of that kind of experience to other people.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Music's such a fundamental part of any sort of game development. And I myself too kind of got that understanding early on that it really does evolve a game much higher and beyond its delivery in anything else but that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you grew this passion for it. Obviously, you was inspired by the likes of film scores such as like Forrest Gump and Star Wars to get yourself into composing, right? And at some point, ARK, this game ARK comes along, I guess, and you have those conversations. How did that?
It's funny because I don't know how many people know this. But the main theme for ARK, the one that blares at you in the menu because it's mastered to within an inch of its life.
Whose idea was that, by the way? Was it like
that's literally just how I delivered it. Like
it was all you.
It's back when I knew a little less about mastering. I don't think it would be quite as hot now in terms of like because I know it shouldn't have been that loud, but
why not?
We also didn't have the same loudness standards back in the day, now it's a bit more policed. But what a lot of people don't know, I don't think, is that the main theme that was my pitch for the project.
Right.
Like that was the very first piece of music I wrote for the game, and if I recall correctly, I don't think I even was asked to do any revisions. If there were any revisions, they were super minor. So I think the team just heard that and they were like, "Yep, that's the theme." And obviously, look, I don't want to sound big-headed, but it's a pretty good one. It's quite catchy.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
That was a good year for me because Ori came out in March 2015, and then ARK came out in early access like 3 months later. It was just insane. I just kind of got lucky with that year, like those two things like happening at the same time. And then that theme, the amount of versions I've been able to extract from it it's a good theme when you can make lots of different versions quite easily. And I still think there's like, if you asked me to do 20 more, I probably could, like, because it's that malleable and flexible. There's a lot of different ways you could cook it. So I will continue to cook it. So
that's it. You say that, but it's quite kind of mind blowing to me to see how you take that leitmotif to transform into so many different compositions, and it all winds you back to that original one, and it's fascinating to see. That's just talent there, mate. Like, I don't want to blow the trumpet, but it is.
Well, you say it's talent, but to me it's just like education, honestly, because it's like going to music school. It's like literally one of the first things you're taught is like how to write a melody. If you know how to write a tune, you're always going to get hired. Because not that many people can do it, because it's quite hard to make something that's like memorable and long lasting. And then the next thing you're taught is like how to vary that melody. It's literally like film scoring or game scoring 101. It's like take the theme and then learn how to vary it. So I've done it a lot in my career, and I enjoy doing it. It's like to me, it's a basic part of the job. But so I appreciate you saying, obviously, that it's talent, but I think maybe it's talent combined with a lot of education and like hard work, and actually crucially experience. I've written a lot of music, so especially even just within the ARK universe, I've written so much. Like I feel like because I've written so much, it's given me like a huge like dictionary or musical encyclopedia. Like in my head, there's like the Ori Encyclopedia of Music, and then there's the ARK Encyclopedia of Music, and so on. It's like they all have a certain language, a musical language that I use for the project.
That's wicked. So you know, obviously you had this pitch for ARK, and you've mentioned like you didn't want it to be John Williams related in the slightest, right? But I'd love to know what did influence that score then, if it wasn't.
Yeah, this is always an interesting one, because it's the classic question, like who inspired you and what influenced you.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people. I basically like to ignore reference music,
Okay, cool.
which is like quite controversial. It's like, because normally the job is like, oh, you've got to like copy the style. Like if you're hiring me to copy the style of someone else, you're hiring the wrong person.
Right, yeah.
Like you're like, I'm not the guy for that. Like if they wanted the John Williams sound, there's like I could point them to like 2 or 3 composers who can do that better than I can. Like of course I could do it because I would study about it, but like I don't want to do that. So your question is like, where did the inspiration come from? And honestly, look at the footage of that first trailer. It's insane. Like the first, and especially consider the context of that coming out in 2015. Like I don't think there had been anything like that. At the end of the day, it's like, oh look, you can ride your dinosaur. Like that was like a new concept at the time. Just like the way the footage was shot was super cool, and like very epic and cinematic. And like I think the reason that people like the original main theme is because it gives you a sense of adventure, but it's also not dark. Like there's so much dark music, especially in games, and it's like the music has a slightly positive and uplifting like feel to it that makes you want to go on an adventure. And I think that's what I was trying to capture, and that's how I like. When I looked at the footage, I was like, that was literally my emotional response from seeing the footage, so I put that into the music. So whatever that meant, it was not like, oh, I wanted to sound like John Williams or Michael Giacchino or any other like dinosaur themed thing. I'm like, no, I'm just trying to capture the sense of adventure, whatever that means to me.
Like your observation in the moment, and just, you know, what you felt was the right delivery for each and every beat, every
exactly
moment, which is fascinating, you know. And you know, as you've taken it through to all of these scores following that, obviously you've created some absolutely wonderful masterpieces through to what you said was your favorite Journey's End, right? With the gaming series anyway. And I guess through that journey of creating all of these from that motif, though, it'd be great to understand what was the, like, challenging such just a generic word, but something that is just, I guess, more emotionally, something you wanted to invoke more emotion out of a character than most, and that took some work to attain that.
What's the question? Sorry.
Well, not essentially what's your most challenging score throughout the journey of what you've composed throughout ARK, but
in ARK, in the game or the TV show series, or just everything?
Just the game. We're going to move on to the animation in a moment, but just curious.
The
creating
game, I
ARK scores?
think, I don't want to say none of them are challenging, because I think, like, I find one of the reasons I love like working on the game's music is because like the like it's so like kind of out there in terms of like what comes to me is like the description of what is happening in the game, and it's like, go score that. I'm like, cool, like look at that crazy boss fight, or look at this awesome cinematic.
Yeah.
Like for example, Journey's End, it didn't actually take me very long to write, because again, I'm like understanding the story and like the meaning of the actual scene. It's like, okay, well that's where I need to go emotionally. I think honestly the most challenging, because it's quite different, and I'm actually really like proud of it, and also it was done during the pandemic, was Genesis 2. Because it's an extremely synthetic soundtrack, like way more than anything else like in the past of the show, but it is combined with like massive orchestra as well. And it's quite a new sound for me, and I think like that album from start to finish is like a very satisfying listen, because it is very different to the previous ARK iterations, but also it still feels like ARK. And that took me a long time to find the like actual sound, because it obviously couldn't just be like entirely electronic music. It still had to have like the orchestral element. But then if you've ever tried to like combine electronic music and orchestra, it's so hard to make them work well together, because they're competing in the same like sonic spectrum. So you kind of like, if you have synthetic sounds in the bass, you can't really have too much synthetic sound in the orchestra in the bass, because then they clash and cancel each other out. That's a problem that a lot of soundtracks make, is like they're like, let's have big synths and big orchestra, and they go together and you can't hear anything, like, and it's not satisfying to listen to. So it's like trying to like get the two to blend together and be satisfying to listen to and musical was like quite a big technical challenge for me. I think like in terms of emotionally challenging, I would say just figuring out the ending like of the very first like version of the game, like with Overseer, and like figuring out just like how that all like worked together. Because that was like the first time we were really doing anything like kind of cinematic in nature for the game, and like you know the studio was still fairly young and like less experienced, and I was less experienced as well. And also the Overseer is just a kind of batshit insane track to begin with.
Absolutely.
Like, I still don't understand like why I committed to doing a track that is so fast and so difficult to play, but it also sounds friggin' great, so it was definitely worth it. Here is another fun fact for you. I wrote Overseer in 6 hours. Because I was that inspired by the concept. I was just like, okay, I got started, I kind of knew what I wanted to do in my head, and I just worked like really fast until it was basically done. I'm one of those people, like it can take me a long time to come up with the initial idea, but then once I have the idea in my head, I can work like, it's insane like how quickly I can work. And I can't even remember the actual process of like writing the Overseer track. Like if I open up the project now, I'll look at it and I'm like, dude, I don't even remember.
But you can imagine it, because the tempo of that music, that score as well. I can see you there at the moment, just being frantic, because it is a frantic melody, right? Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. Yeah. So you moved into, of course, the animated score, right? And you've noted like passive medium being much more challenging than active. With Helena's training montage being your hardest, but I guess what I'd like to learn is what you've learned is from these passive these active mediums. Sorry, no, these passive mediums. I'm trying to get on board with this terminology, but what have you learned from those that you feel that will inspire you going forward with active mediums? With back to the game ARK.
Yeah, so I'll just explain to the audience one time. When I talk about active media, it's like when you're playing a game, you're like actively engaged with the character, and a passive medium is like TV and film. You're like sitting back and you are engaged, but you're not like as engaged. Like the brain activity is fundamentally different when you're like holding a controller and controlling the character. And so the approach for writing music on like a psychological level is completely different from TV and film, and compared to when you're playing a game. The way I like to describe it is your brain only has so many CPU cycles to process everything. So when you're playing a game, like if there's too much going on screen, like it becomes overwhelming, like because you've got to worry about controlling the character, you've got all the visuals coming at you, the animation and the art and everything, and then if the music's too crazy, it's not, it overwhelms the brain, and actually it makes you like want to shut down. And the very best games know how to balance like the design between like having music take a front step and then go back. One game that did this really well is The Witcher 3. The music never overwhelms the experience. It only like becomes big when it needs to be, which is quite remarkable considering how big the game is. There are other games that do it well as well, but like that's a really good example. Like the score just kind of comes and goes in the right way, and it's never overwhelming. But there's a lot that goes on in that game, and some of my favorite like times in The Witcher 3 are like when there's actually like nothing going on in terms of gameplay, and you're just riding your horse across the countryside and the music's playing. But that's actually a lot is going on because you're getting visuals, you're riding your horse, and some like a nice music track is playing, and that's enough for the brain to process. Now, when you're doing a film or a TV show, because you're sitting back, you are like less engaged in terms of brain activity, so you can actually do sometimes a bit more musically. And if you've watched the animated series, the music is not shy. It is also reflective of like the game experience, but like the music is very, very melodic in the animated series by design. That was like a direction that we decided on very early. Like the music was going to be very upfront, and it's going to tell you how to feel sometimes, and that's okay. It's kind of a throwback to how soundtracks were made, especially in the late 80s and 90s, where music was very at the forefront, very melodic. That's less common these days, and that's fine. Like it's just these things kind of come and go in cycles. Like right now the trend is like very ambient scores which don't have like huge melody. Every so often there is like a score with a big melody, but the thing is, it's ARK. Like if we don't put the big melodies in, people are going to be disappointed, right? It just kind of sucks. Like and so, you know, we've got unique themes for each characters that we develop. That was the biggest difference for me with the TV show. Is like I've got these characters and I have time to like develop their themes. And while I'm happy like with what is in part one, the part two music, which I can't talk about much until it's out, but the part two music builds on everything in part one. And also I learned so much through doing the first half of the group of episodes, that like the second half is so much stronger. But I think that's the case for the entire team anyway, the animation team, the storytelling, everything. You just kind of learn as you go, and you find this with a lot of TV shows, not just ARK. Like the first few episodes, everyone is kind of finding their way, and it's not to say that I don't like the first few episodes, because I do, but compared with like where it goes in the in the later episodes, which I wish I could talk about. I can't wait to talk about it like next, you know, when it's out. Like it's been very, like, it was very satisfying for me to build on all of that and develop the themes even more, and also bring them to their conclusions based on whatever's happening in the story.
Wicked, amazing. Looking forward to it, and hopefully, well, we haven't got a date yet, but you know, whenever it comes out, it comes out. But yeah, obviously, you know, a lot, a journey there to learn about that, you know, that type of composition, right? And I'm interested as well in how you might have took anything from that though, and looking ahead at active compositions, and seeing how, you know, that might reflect on those in the future now for you. Do you think that's, spending the time that you have now, do you think that's going to change anything looking ahead?
I think in context of ARK, I think just because we've done all of this stuff in the animated series, that like, I think it's just kind of like the two kind of work off each other at this point. And actually, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but like when we were doing the recording for the Genesis 2 soundtrack, that was also happening at the same time as I was recording the pilot for the first episode, for the music for the first episode. And so that was where I started to see like how things could converge. Like, oh, Rockwell's theme, which is core to like Genesis 2. Well, what if I just grab that? I'm going to just throw it into the first episode. Oh, hey, that's another scene done. And but that was like where it was taken from, like literally from the passive medium, and then put into the game, and vice versa. So they kind of feed off each other. But also it's like I am kind of like treating everything as its own experience, because playing a game is fundamentally different.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, my job is to traffic in emotion. As I like to say, I get paid to emotionally manipulate people for a living, which I think is really cool. So
Great title.
that's every single scenario is completely different, whether it's a game, film, TV show, and even right down to the individual scenes. And so that's really all I'm thinking about, when at the end of the day, like, it's all about like how well can you tell the story, and that doesn't really change for me when it comes to like the active or passive medium thing. It's more just like finding the emotion. The real difference is just making sure I'm not saying too much. Like that's the key, because sometimes the player or the viewer can figure it out for themselves, and sometimes they need a helping hand, and it's up to me to decide like whether they need a helping hand or not.
Elevate that somewhat, yeah. Which happens, which certainly sets that mood without a doubt.
Exactly.
And and with character themes and such, you've certainly delved into those much more with the animated series, right? And I think you noted as Helena's theme being your favorite. Yes. But I'd love to know which have you found of the characters' themes been the most dynamically like plot driven and changed over the course of the season without revealing too much.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say there is. I don't think this is really a spoiler, because we all know that Rockwell's core to the ARK story and that he's around. Rockwell's theme, there's one episode in particular that where Rockwell's theme goes into a different place that I think is very cool, that plays back to more of his origin. Right. I kind of slightly hinted at it in Genesis 2, but in the TV show I've really explored, because the TV show allows me to explore his actual origin story, and so what his music might sound like from his original era. And then just with the way the show goes, and I definitely can't say any more, but Rockwell's theme gets some love, basically more love than it already did in Genesis 2, because I feel like it's used quite a lot in Genesis 2 as well. So
great.
But also also Mayin's theme as well. Mayin's theme, again, it's all dictated by what's happening in the show. So if the show allows me to take the themes into new places, then it's I've got to reflect that. It's literally my job. So it's all decided on what the character's doing. I love that someone wrote in Discord just now, is this Gareth Coker? No, I'm just a clone. I'm just
it's
an
just
AI.
Some random dude.
Yes, exactly.
Just talking about ARK music. That's it.
Yes, it's Gareth Coker, by the way. Yeah, it's me.
Hey, on that note, real quick. So Gareth, I don't know how busy you are, because I know you're on the studio, but we could give you another 30 minutes, and we'll adjust our schedule.
Sure, yeah, I can do a bit longer. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
If no one's bored of hearing me speak, so.
Nah,
I don't think anyone is.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll jump back down. See ya.
But no, that's great to hear that journey. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing what we'll find with Rockwell and Mayin as well. Definitely, yeah. It's so far the tale's been brilliant. So you've noted with this journey, you've worked with the best musicians in the world, in the best studio in the world.
Yes.
I'd love to know though. Everyone strives for more. What's beyond that then? What can you do to expand that even further?
It's funny because if you'd asked me in 2015 where ARK would have taken me, recording at Abbey Road, I just have to emphasize one of the reasons the music has ended up the way it has is because we're able to record it. This is literally the same studio where Lord of the Rings was recorded, where Star Wars was recorded, massive films. I did have imposter syndrome back in 2017 when we recorded the first round of ARK music there. And so it's where do we go from here? It's well, actually that is the standard now, and it's that. So even just maintaining that standard is incredibly difficult because it requires excellence in all phases. People, when you guys get the music, obviously you're just hearing the final product, but it starts in here, and then I have to like write it, but then it has to be transferred for the orchestra, and then it has to be recorded, so all of the microphones have to be set up, and then it has to be performed properly, and then it has to be mixed properly, and then it has to be mastered properly. Like it's like there's so many phases, and there's so many people. Like it's literally hundreds of people that go into making it. It's for a very short time, but it takes a lot to like get it to the level of quality, and even just maintaining that is incredibly difficult. So it's, for me, like ARK's, like I never thought I'd be able to record at Abbey Road. I never thought I'd be able to record with musicians in London, but I have been able to do that. So that's like a major bucket list item crossed off for me. But the challenge now is like, how can I elevate the show more? How can I elevate the game more? How can I, keep delivering for the fans that have like supported the game and myself for so long, literally a decade now. And every time I get like a new ask from Studio Wildcard, like, hey, can you write new music for this thing? I feel like a big responsibility to like actually continue delivering, especially because I know people like the music. So I want to keep delivering on that front. So it's not about like more or like better. It's actually just maintaining the standard.
Yeah, it is. It's such an integral part of ARK. I mean, every single person. There's nothing but praise for every score that's listened to, and award-winning.
Even Love Evolved.
Sorry.
Even Love Evolved.
Even Love Evolved. In fact, that's my regular tune. Believe it or not, I'll play that in between take when I go for a quick coffee break. That's the song I play. It's the perfect one to set the tone, set the mood. But even that, just seeing the different themes that you've generated, like tackling the different holiday themes with the same leitmotif is incredible. That you've managed to just find that right tone to set that mood for each and every one. It's fascinating to see.
I think the first one we did was the Halloween one, and that one was pretty fun. I was like embracing my inner Tim Burton, like what if we had Tim Burton in ARK? So that was very fun, and it's just like 2 minutes, so it's like it's not really a big challenge for me to like do 2 minutes of ARK Halloween music. Like it was just like, that was like kind of like light relief for me. Is there any theme like that we haven't done? Like I feel like there must be something that like I haven't explored, or like the most like what like theme hasn't been done in the ARK world. We actually haven't done anything like super heavy metal yet. There has been covers of the ARK theme.
There's been covers,
it's metal. But I actually haven't done anything that's like a proper like metal version of the theme. So maybe if something is in the pipeline that justifies that, then that would be fun to explore.
Was it something you'd like to explore then?
I'd love to explore any genre in this universe, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay. And is there possibly a particular genre that you favor more over any?
Not really. I think just because I know metal is very popular, it's just would be kind of fun to see if I can actually do it. Like, what if ARK combined with the Doom soundtrack or something? It's like I think everyone would want to hear that. But yeah, we'll see. Someone just noticed in chat that Extinction end credits is kind of metal. That's like the closest we get, but I feel like there's another level that I can go to, and I'm a much better producer now than I was when I did Extinction. So I feel like I could take that further if necessary.
There we go. One great suggestion was Medieval.
That's a good shout. Yes, that's a good shout. That would be fun to explore.
Yeah, no, definitely, and who knows what's around the corner, right? And what might influence that. Without a doubt. Well, I guess speaking of your scores, right? You've obviously now got a favourite from the animated series. Well, at least from part 1, which is the Broodmother fight, right? And
yes,
I still believe it's Journey's End. I think last you said of ARK. Yep. But I guess which wins the crown? I know they're two different mediums, but if you had to pick,
let's see. I mean, I think like. The original Ascension from the first game, just because it's like it's quite a glorious moment. And it's like I think it was like actually like the first like proper cinematic I did. It's like I'm very fond of it, and it like kind of gave birth to like some other tracks as well. That one I do like. I know people want me to say the Aberration theme is like a favorite, but like I'm gonna be honest, like I didn't spend a huge amount of time doing that. It's probably why it's good because I didn't overthink it. But like, I know everyone loves that. Everyone loves the female vocal in that, and I know it's a popular theme. But I would say of all the main themes that I've done for like the various expansions and games, that's the one I spent the least time on. I probably shouldn't admit that publicly, but like that's what happened. Like
Sometimes that's the way it works, right? Yeah. The best ideas are in a
I think because I think I was probably inspired because the setting is kind of wild, and it's like the color scheme is very different to like what we'd seen. It was something very different to like what had been what I explored for Scorched Earth and the main game. So it was like a chance for me to explore like a different direction.
Yeah. If I had to pick one, I think it would probably be King Titan. Soundtrack.
King Titan, yes.
I'm a big fan of that. It's such a dramatic melody that over time, changes as well. It's like it goes on for a long time, and towards the end there, it really switches it up, and it's just it's a really empowering one to want to continue, want to drive you through, and get you quite emotional through in this moment.
I did enjoy doing all the Titan music in general.
Yeah.
They're quite fun. Anything big and epic is always fun to write.
Yeah, and we get to revisit it in a couple of months, which I'm really looking forward to. In fact, have you had any like looks at soundtracks for the ASA versions? I'm not quite fully aware of that. Have you been approached with any of these maps that are being redone in ASA to kind of look?
It's funny because people people ask, are you going to remaster the soundtracks for like ARK? And I'm like, what is there to remaster, because it's all being recorded live.
Sure.
So here's the thing, like some other games have gone and remastered their soundtracks, and I don't think they're successful because they still don't capture the essence of like what the original was. Like I could go and record it again, and we could spend loads of money and like record it again, but why? Like what's the point? I don't think there's much to be gained. I have done I did a new version of the main of the main theme. It's like people are like, yes, you love the original version of the main theme. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of like a new version of the overall game. Like with the ARK Survival Ascended main menu theme. But for the actual like in-game music, I don't think like it needs to go to a new place, because it's like it's already like fairly complete. But obviously we've done new stuff for the Bob's Tall Tales, and a few other bits and pieces here and there. So yeah, it's like I don't feel like there's a necessity to go and redo it. And I think that's combined with the team's feeling as well. Like we went to a great effort to get it done to a really high level. The biggest one is like, I see this all the time. What if ARK had ambient music? Now these decisions aren't up to me, but like I'd love to do it. But some equally, it's a PvP game, and not everyone wants to hear music. But it's like, what if we had the option? Maybe it'll happen in the future. I don't know. We shall see.
That's interesting. So as somebody like who creates content as well, and it almost feels sacrilegious to turn the music all the way off, like because of editing in post, right? But yeah, it's certainly ambience is something I'd be interested in seeing how that would affect the experience, like you said, in PvP especially without doubt. But that menu music at the start, in ASE, that was just you.
Yes, that was me. That was done specifically for ARK Survival Ascended. Yeah.
This is our music. You must listen to it. I love it. It's great. And then there you go. That was such a great introduction to Evolved. And I really look forward to what more you're going to be bringing to whatever content we get within the gaming universe, but also, of course, with the animated series and beyond that. Your work speaks for itself, mate. It's award-winning, and just can't wait to see what's really around the corner for you. Yeah.
Yep. As long as they keep wanting me to write music, I'll be around to write music, because it's a lot of fun working on this game and the show.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely. Yeah, and that was it. That's most of my questions pretty much covered now. But yeah, I'm curious to see. I guess with looking ahead towards. You can't really discuss it really, but the new. Well, Jeremy's already hinted at there's going to be new expansion maps coming out, a map coming out. Is that something you're starting to already look at this point, or something you probably can't answer?
I'm always I'm always privy to like what's going on in terms of expansions and just like whatever's coming down the pipeline. So yes, I am like penciled in to do more music this year. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's funny because like for 2 years while I was writing the series, it was like I had to write so much music. It's like 7 hours, and then this last year and a half has been like kind of a break for me. Like I've only done like, I don't know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes of music this year for the game between Bob's Tall Tales and like the new themes. But yeah, it's this was kind of like a break year, but I have a feeling it'll escalate in the not too distant future.
Up.
So
yeah,
yes,
absolutely, mate. And that's it. ARK wouldn't be without you. You and ARK are hand in hand. And yeah, but again, I'd like to kind of dial it back to that original pitch though. That was it kind of like an ad that Jess and Jeremy put out, and you just saw it and was like, I'm gonna just throw my pitch in there, or there was a conversation already kind of happening there that somebody mentioned it to you? Oh, there's this great game coming out that you might want to be interested in composing for.
I think
kind of glanced over.
I think the game. I think like the connection came from actually a colleague on another project who was like I'd worked with him before on one thing, and he then became a sound designer on ARK.
Right.
And then my name was put forward to like pitch music for the project. But then in terms of like what I got, no, I literally the trailer that was released is literally what I was given. I was just given that footage and like, write music, go. Like it wasn't exactly the same, but I basically scored that trailer, and that was the end result. And yeah, I was in a good place at the time because I think I did that in like April or May 2015. So Ori 1 had just come out, Ori and the Blind Forest, which was like, that was obviously my breakthrough in terms of like working in the game industry. And then a month later, this, what I thought was like this, small dinosaur game, because no one knew at the time like the ARK was going to blow up the way it did back in 2015.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, sure, I'll do this, whatever. And then the trailer launched, and like, wow, it like really like took off. So, but yeah, that trailer, that's what I scored. I just wrote music to that specific video, and the result you see online is pretty much my version 1.
Cool. Well, yeah.
And by the way, nothing ever gets approved on version 1. It's so rare. But that did. So. And here we are, almost a decade later.
Well, that was absolutely excellent, mate. But I've been told we've got to carry on now. So just once again, a big thank you. I really appreciate the time to talk to you, mate, and just continue doing what you do. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
All right. Take care.
Thanks,
mate.
everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. And there we go. And we're back. Sorry. I get carried away in these conversations with people.
Lucky you.
I had said in the winter going, cut, we gotta move on.
The panic was he did this.
Yeah.
And I told him, I'm like, oh, I thought this meant keep rolling, keep going. And he's like,
No,
I meant wrap it up.
No, wrap it up. I got wrap it up.
And then Luke said, that means keep going. So he was like, oh, no. That's
Oh,
not what I
right. Okay,
meant.
that's what came
That's
over
the
again.
Panic.
I thought it was just reinforcing. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But there was Gareth Coker. I really enjoyed that conversation. Really appreciate that time. Thank you
Not jealous
very
at all.
much. And we got extended time with
Yes.
Gareth as well. I was kind of
Bonus
half
time.
prepared. Like I'm
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
glad
yeah.
we had that time. Then we got to a point I was like, oh man, I wish
Flowing
I'd prepared a
good.
few more questions in that case.
Yeah.
But really, honestly, like such a talented dude, and you forget he is like top of the game and so award winning. That we're very, very fortunate to get to
Absolutely.
listen to his music in this game. We all love to play, right?
And we have
So,
played thousands of hours in ARK listening to his music.
yeah,
Being
yeah.
lulled to sleep on it and being thrilled and happy and sad on that music.
Yeah.
Which is great.
That's it.